Hello, Internet. Welcome to the podcast that no one asked for. My name is Guy,
I'm back.
and no one asked for this. Today, we will be talking about the latest entry in the greatest movie, nonsense movie franchise in the history of the world, F9, The Fast and Furious, the ninth of what will probably, if these box office numbers are to be believed, will be 10 at least movies. So let's get right into it. Babs, what's your gut reaction to Fast Nine?
Um, I should be more excited with my reaction, but it was all right.
For me, I don't even need to give a gut reaction. Anyone that knows me knows it was the greatest ever, and it was awesome, and I enjoyed every moment of it. It could get 15% stupider, and I'd still be all in. So let's get into our first of the important categories, which is the most memorable moment. Babs, what was your most memorable moment?
I'm gonna go with Cars in Space because it was just hilarious from the get-go, like putting the rocket on the car, and the fact that they actually are in space and then they're just floating along, and it was
Not just
just
any car, a Pontiac Fiero, which
with a rocket engine strapped to it.
was a crappy car always, and the fact that you could do anything to it to get it to go into space is absolutely ridiculous. My most memorable moment is when they're having the UFC MMA fight in the back of a magnet truck, and we learn that Ramsey doesn't really know how to drive.
Drive.
But of course, that doesn't mean anything in these movies because she learns how to be an expert driver in about, I don't know, I think they cut to her maybe just 45 seconds of awkwardness followed by better driver than,
And the better drivers get in the car with her and keep letting her drive, even though she literally said, "I don't know how to drive."
yeah. It was a, the Fast and Furious does have its funny moments, and that was one of the funny moments where they're like, yeah, drive. And she's like, I don't know how. So she's a crew of,
Okay, but somehow you're in the crew of the best drivers that ever lived.
yeah. I mean, literally, there's nothing they can't do with a car. And she goes from not knowing how to drive to expertly manipulating a magnet while driving. And this is a manual transmission, not just like, oh, get in the car, hit the gas. Ladies and gentlemen, Fast and Furious.
That's so ridiculous.
We're gonna go to background bums and or a boss. Fab, you giving out a bum or a boss?
This is a boss, and he's not the background, but he makes this movie for me, and it is Roman Spear. Because his commentary on their, like, level of not being able to be killed is hilarious, like, nod to the fact that these movies are beyond ridiculous at this point. Like, how are we don't have not even a scratch. How is that even possible?
Yeah, spoiler alert, he's my MVP, but sure, background bummer boss. Mine's gonna go to the cast of the flashback. So, as part of this movie, we learn about they flash back to the time around when Dom's father is killed in a race. They actually show that part of it as well, and seeing as you're playing a young John Cena, who's one of the best WWE wrestlers on screen people of all time, whether or not he's a good actor or not, he has to be on some level to connect with 20,000 people in a live arena. And the young Vin Diesel, who is also has his own level of charm, and not just be like taken completely out of the fact that that's the emotional kind of heartbeat of the film was incredible. So the three of them get my background bumps and boss, or I'm sorry, background boss. Sorry, no problem.
They didn't ruin the movie. I'll say that. They didn't ruin the movie. They were somewhat believable as the younger version.
They were as believable as the Pontiac Fiero in space, at least.
I mean, you just have to go with it. You know, you just have to, don't question it.
Exactly. Next, we have a special shout out. Dad, do you have any special shout outs?
I am going to go to the special shout out that this is going back to like in the earlier scenes of the younger actors, they're showing John Cena is the younger brother, and he is smaller and shorter than Dom. And then even when they do the current scenes, they kind of do a little bit to make it not seem like Vin Diesel is that much smaller than John Cena. Like, that is what my special shout out is going to. The camera work involved to not show that John Cena would be towering over Vin Diesel. Like,
In Vin Diesel's defense, he was leaner in this movie than he was in Fate of the Furious.
but he's
He's in good
definitely
shape.
shorter than John Cena.
Absolutely. But they don't make him look bigger. Like, John Cena's muscles look bigger than
But they
Vin
don't
Diesel.
like put them standing next to each other where you could see that, like, you know, this guy is like 5'9" and that guy is like 6'4". So I'm not
Yeah.
sure of their actual height.
But that is just, again, part of acting with Vin Diesel. He's not gonna let you tower over him. So that's to be expected. I mean, John Cena is slightly shorter than The Rock, so The Rock doesn't look that much bigger than Vin Diesel, and John Cena won't either. Next up. Oh, I'm sorry, I never gave my special shout out, which is to Neil Moritz, which is the producer of all of the Fast movies up to Fate of the Furious, but he did get the producer credit on this one. And he also produced probably every borderline popcorn half shitty movie from like 1998 up until 2018, 2019. And he's also the producer of Reacher even. Like, it's crazy when you look at his IMDb how entertaining his movies are without actually being great. He is a master of entertaining mediocre movies, and Fast and Furious as a franchise is the crown jewel of entertaining nonsense. So
Like,
he
you
gets my
don't
special
need a
shout
lot
out.
of plot, and you don't need a lot of
Barely a plot
just,
to speak
you
of.
know, just enough. Just enough.
Exactly.
Like white people seasoning a dish.
Thank you. Moving on from that, we're gonna go to the most valuable performer, and as I stated earlier, mine was Tyrese. He had some moments of dramatic acting and always crushes it on the comedic side. I mean, and he had to sell Homeboys in Space, so Tyrese, you the man. Hey, you the MVP.
You know, this is gonna sound stupid, but this is not a character in the movie necessarily, but post that movie, there have been a shazillion memes about family, and that is my MVP. Like, nothing could stop family. Like,
Well, we'll see. Charlize Theron is still out there being terrible haircut, but she's out there.
she's
And
rocking that bowl cut.
I do like that, like, as part of the flashback cast, they did show Vince and Jesse and Letty when they were, young kids. So, while they weren't directly tied to what I loved about it, because they didn't have these lines of dialogue, but they are part of that flashback cast, not ruining the movie situation. But, so I do understand why family, because family is it's the whole thing.
The whole thing, but yet he has a brother, an estranged brother that we just found out about.
They gave a good story reason as to what, good. Wrong.
Good in the Fast and
They
Furious.
gave a satisfying story reason. It is as satisfying as the reason they brought back Bow Wow and what's the guy's name? I don't know. The guy from Tokyo Drift. So Lucas Black, that's him.
Yeah.
So yes, they gave as good a reason for that, and
Whose
and
hairline
how.
it's not aging well. I will.
Woo! I'm just gonna move on from that. So finally, we are going to give a rating for some reason. I guess because it's just part of what we do. And Baz, what do you consider this? Rewatchable, watchable, forgettable, or a waste of time?
It is rewatchable, but only if you like Fast and Furious movies, and I could just watch them. It's a popcorn flick, so But if you're not into those movies, it's not rewatchable for you.
I don't know
have
why
to be
you'd be in
into it.
Fast 9, watching Fast 9 in
If
the
you
theater.
get to don't just watch that one, not having watched the other ones either.
That would never work. It would seem insane.
But if you're not into that kind of a thing, it's not going to be rewatchable. But for me, it's rewatchable.
Yeah.
That's what I think.
I concur. But again, don't ever expect me to be logical or reasonable when it comes to Fast and Furious, because they're not being logical or reasonable. Why am I holding myself to a higher standard than Vin Diesel holds himself? I'm not. But if you were thinking that this podcast was a waste of your time, remember.
No one asked.
Exactly.